Great. Hello, everybody. So welcome to OfferZen's webinar on practically engaging with AI as a tech leader. My name is Jason. I am an engineering manager here at OfferZen, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. So before we dive into the event, we just have a couple rules of engagement. So I think the first thing is that you can see us, but we cannot see you at the moment. If you drop off the video, you can come back anytime using the same link that you received when you registered. So don't worry if you accidentally close the tab, you can definitely get back to it. And if you have any questions for us, and we would love to hear your questions, especially on such an interesting topic, you can post them in the questions tab. Should be on the bottom right of your screen next to the chat there. Today's webinar is recorded and will be shared with you all. So if you need to step out for a quick tea break and come back, you can always go back to that point and watch what we said. And finally, you can also use the chat tab to add comments throughout the webinar. So I see we already have quite a few people that have joined, but why don't we give it a try just so you can get used to it. Let us know what your name is, where you're from, what company you're in. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll give it a couple minutes just for a couple more people to join before we kick on with things. Great. Hi, Danwin. Hi, Martin. Jivanathan, welcome. Capello, how's it? Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks. Keen to hear where you guys are from. Are you all Cape Town based? It seems everybody is. Or I'm in Durban actually, so fortunately I buck that trend. But love to know where you guys are from. Thanks, other Jason. This is my favorite of the OfferZen shirts. It's the one I have to explain the most to people, but it's good fun. Nice. Great. Hi guys. Yeah, thanks for all the chats. We're off to a good start today. Okay, great. So for those of you who just joined, my name's Jason. I'll be hosting today's event. And just before we kind of introduce the speakers, just a couple words about OfferZen. So OfferZen is a developer talent marketplace. It was founded in Cape Town, South Africa, all the way back in 2016. Feels like ages ago now. Our marketplace helps 2,000 companies in Africa and Europe, or more than 2,000, hire curated job-seeking software developers. So companies on OfferZen can directly reach out to skilled developers with upfront information about preferred tech stack, salaries, previous roles, and they make their hires in less than 25 days on average. So if you are hiring or would like to browse the developers currently live on OfferZen, there should be a poll that comes on your screen, and simply hit I'd like to know more, and we'll send you a link to check out OfferZen yourself. Great. So we also have a super strong focus on community. So, running events like this, creating content on our blog and other ways. And we're cutting through the noise to help bring you some more Zen. So our webinar series focuses on practical takeaways, tips from industry leaders, and the latest insights on software developer hiring. So we've got some great more community events planned. It's an ongoing series. So if you'd like to join one of these upcoming events, there should be another poll that will pop up on your screen now, and you can select ones that sound interesting to you. Awesome. Yeah. So today is no different. In just a few moments, I'll be joined by the wonderful Marilda and Dries to discuss how to practically engage with AI as a tech leader. I'm sure I'm going to be saying the word AI many times. It's going to stop sounding like a word, but it's a really interesting topic. So yeah, let's welcome on the stage. Welcome, Marilda and Dries. Okay, we'll just give it a couple minutes to join. Live storm takes some time to load as people come on. There we go. Amazing. Great, thanks. Well, welcome, guys. So just let's give a quick introduction to who you are and your space in the tech scene. I think, Barelda, let's start with you and then followed by Dries.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Meralda, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Melio AI. One of my core identity is a recovering data scientist, and that's kind of the founding reason why we started Melio, is to help companies define their AI strategies and their roadmap, and then we help them develop and deploy these solutions on the cloud.
Great, thanks.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Dries. I'm the founder and CEO of Deep Learning Cafe. And the one thing I'd like to say is we did AI before it was cool. We've been doing it for about 5, almost 6 years now. And yeah, I'm very similar to Meralda. The reason I started Deep Learning Cafe was to just realize that AI is going to be big and wanted to do things in a different way. And so we've got a very strong focus on unstructured data, getting information out of data. And we look at helping companies to implement end-to-end solutions in the AI space.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks, Dries. I didn't actually think about that, but that's you're in there far before the big hype. So this must be an interesting time for you.
Yeah.
Great. So I think as an icebreaker question, what's the weirdest thing that either of you have asked AI to do? So I assume this is more like Gen AI, but it could be something else.
I can start. I don't know how PC it is, but I was in Amsterdam like 2 years ago, and I was experimenting with some things, and then I had like this really epic dream, and I wanted to explain to people what I dreamt about. So I just like tried to paint out or draw out the picture of my dream with like stability and some of these like image narration tools.
That's fascinating. There's definitely some use cases for that. And yourself, Dries?
Merelda, I think you win. But yeah, from my side, I used AI to send my wife like a good morning message. And for quite a while, she actually thought it was me sending her the messages in the morning. So, so yeah, that's my story.
Have you just outed yourself now on this webinar?
I think she has no interest in technology, so she's definitely not on this webinar.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. That was some great answers. Right. So we'll be covering 3 main themes today. So we'll be covering strategic AI integration. We'll be covering building an AI-ready team. And then to kind of cap it off, we'll also be looking at measuring the success of AI initiatives. So I think before we dive in, let's just make sure we're all kind of on the same page, because I think I had this question prior to the webinar as well. So I think we'll start with you, Marilda. How do you define AI?
So in our world, we combine both the traditional machine learning methods and to some extent the predictive analytics as well as the generative AI, because the foundation is quite similar, even though the applications are different. So by AI, I kind of mean the entire data science, machine learning, predictive analytics, and generative AI stack.
Okay, great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yourself, Dries?
Yeah, so I thought, how could I answer this question without sounding like I asked ChatGPT for the answer? And my simplest answer, and doing it in a kind of a practical way, is that AI does human tasks, and it started off being very narrow, like 10 years ago. It might have been considered very good, strong AI to extract the postal code from a package or something like that. And now, as time goes by, AI is just getting better and better at doing more wider and wider tasks, and up to the point one day where we'll probably have AGI and yeah, that's how I can say, is this AI doing human tasks as well as a human, or even better? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I'm actually taking note of that. That's actually a really succinct way to explain, especially like to non-technical people. What is AI? It's when tech does human tasks. That's great. Cool. Okay, well, let's dive straight into the first theme. So I think just for context, everybody, in OfferZen's latest AI skills and impact data reports, so 75.3% of respondents agree that AI has helped enable customer impact faster. 58.8% of engineering managers say that they've seen this too. So the developers actually working with tech and also the engineering managers from a maybe slightly broader perspective have kind of agreed with this as a sentiment. And I think there's quite a bit to unpack there. And we've got a few questions here just to kind of look into this integration side of things. And I think the first question, Dries, we'll start with you. This one is, what are the first steps that a tech leader should take when planning to integrate AI into their existing business workflows?
Yeah, and this is a question. This is a question we get often, and I think the question is based on two things. Everybody wants to know where to start, and are we going to see a return on our investment? And what we tend to advise our clients is to turn it around and say, okay, what are my top problems we face in our business? What are the top stumble blocks we have? Where are all the bottlenecks in our business? And we start from that angle, and you start prioritizing your biggest problems, and then you look from that angle. You look and you say, oh, is there actually AI that can solve this problem for me? And so that's kind of where we start. That's the first step, is to turn it around and look at the problems you face in your business, and then look at, is there AI that can. And I would say 80%. I'm just throwing numbers here, but the majority of AI projects that fails is people starting with AI and looking for something to solve with the AI instead of actually solving an actual problem in their organization.
Thanks. That's a great answer. And yourself, Beraldo?
Yeah, I have to echo Dries' sentiment. So there's 3 readiness kind of thing that we ask the companies when we first start working with them. The first one is, like Dries said, the business readiness. Do you have a smart goal like that you think you can link your AI initiatives to that is linking to a business problem? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Do you know what the baseline is? Do you have the time and money to support these AI use cases? I think it's something that we always try to bring up front, because people will say, oh, well, let's put this budget and this time aside. And we always tell them, well, times it by 3, because if it's your first AI project, you're going to at least fail 2 times. So the first one is business readiness. And the second one is data readiness. Do you know if the AI will perform better than a human? And if you can find the answer that you're looking for with the existing data that you already have. And the last one is technology or integration readiness. Do you already have a mature software development team using like cloud technologies? And if you don't, then rather buy and don't build.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I want to come back to you, Ronald, on the buy and build and like suitable AI tools. Before I do that, I see there's a question that's quite like pertinent to what Dries asked, and we may forget the context later. So in the questions tab, Dominic asks, Dries, do you recommend existing AI solutions to solve these problems, the business problems that you mentioned, or do you go out and actually build completely new solutions for them?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, and I don't have a straight answer. But what I can say from experience, it's often a hybrid of the two. And the one problem we face in South Africa or in Africa is that often the fancy shiny tools out there does not work as well in a South African context, and it does not work as well with our languages, with our in our context. And so often you would have to do at least a level of fine-tuning or a level of customization on these models. But you would be surprised at how much you can do with just the models that's already there, or the tools that's already there, and using them in a smart way and using them to their optimal way. So I would just say it really just depends on the size of your company, where you are, the problems you face. But yeah, so I don't think I've given a good answer there, but the answer is that it really depends on the situation, and in most cases there would at least be a level of fine tuning needed.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and I think we can definitely unpack maybe a bit more of that. There will be a Q&A session at the end in case we want to follow up on that one.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That'll be cool. Okay. Merle, to get back to you mentioned there was the 3 layers you look at, and the third one was kind of like the technology layer. So I think that kind of goes quite nicely into the next question around how can specifically small and medium-sized companies evaluate and select the most suitable kind of AI tools and tech.
So I almost feel like it links to Drees's answer as well. I think for small, medium-sized companies, the speed of implementation is the most important, if not like the biggest factor, I think, to AI solution success is that if you can't roll it out fast enough, then you would be incurring so much technical debt for your small team that it might not make sense. So in that case, to assess what tools or technologies will give you faster speed for implementation, it would be compatibility with your tech stack, if there are community support like normal software tools, if there's a lot of GitHub stars, at least that's a very good indication. And we also always advocate for more managed service cloud-based solutions rather than kind of rolling your own open source stack if you're a smaller team.
Absolutely. I think what I can add there is for the really small companies is to find other small companies and maybe pitch together and look at a solution that's in your industry that's not necessarily going to take away your competitive advantage, but look at something like a stupid example might be you need an invoicing solution. You've all got a similar problem with dealing with hundreds of invoices on a weekly basis, and with a 3, 4, 5 whatever number of companies work together on a solution, you can all use it and you can all help improve it and make it better instead of a small company try and do it all by themselves. So.
Sure, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, like I think there needs to be more of that type of like small companies in SA helping each other in general. Like I'm quite involved like the Laravel ecosystem here in SA, and there's quite a lot of that happening in that space. And I think it applies really well to AI as well. So yeah, super interesting. Cool. Okay, so next one is maybe a spicy one. I'll let either of you go, whoever feels like taking this one. And that's the kind of general concerns or the gray areas when it comes to integrating AI. Or do you have any kind of insights on what those would be?
I think it really depends on the company size. So maybe for like larger companies, they care a lot about security, privacy, and compliance, change management. Whereas for the smaller company, they care a lot around cost, scalability, maintenance, and maybe like data quality. But I think I guess the most popular one is probably, will AI take over our jobs? And obviously, I'm in the camp of no, it'll make your jobs better, but it will probably replace some roles in the near future. But as a whole, for humanity, it's going to do great things.
Cool. Yeah, I think we had to at least at some point address that. Cool. Over to you, Dries.
Yeah, I'm with Merelda on that one. I'm also a strong believer in that AI will, on the balance, it will be good for humanity. But unfortunately, we've already seen it. It's not even. I would love to say it's not going to at least disrupt the workforce. But what we've seen is there's actually an excitement when you take away a mundane, boring job from one person. They get to upskill and get into marketing, or they get into sales, or they get to build better relationships with their clients. So we've actually seen a lot of positive coming from it. That where in the one instance we've taken away just processing quotes from panel beaters for this one client where they had 3 people working on it full time. They're all very happy now working in the sales department, actually getting out and doing more human kind of things and sitting there with a ruler and trying to locate and identify lines in a quote. So yes, it's a tricky one. I don't think any one of us has all the answers, but we have to navigate it with a touch of with a human element and a touch of compassion and empathy to to everyone affected. But it is happening with or without us. So you might as well just embrace it.
That's a good attitude to have. Yeah.
Part of the movement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe just in terms of like the hiring process specifically, do you see any risks and concerns kind of in that perspective? And I'm sure there's quite a few people on the call right now that are hiring, that have played a hiring manager role. So there might be some interesting insights there.
Yeah, I think it's the usual concerns around the bias built into your models and how it might affect marginalized or smaller and I think if there will have to be some guardrails putting in place, and there's a big call for AI to be governed at a sort of AI level, and I think this is where the world is probably going to play out a little bit different from what everyone is imagining. I think it will be up to every industry and every segment in the market to start governing themselves and to start putting those guardrails in place, and one of them will definitely be how AI affects hiring and what do we allow AI to do in the hiring space, and where we say, listen, that's not an AI function, but a human function. There's definitely concerns, but none of it is not, we won't be able to overcome. Definitely, it just needs to be handled with a bit of common sense, and it should be okay.
Yeah. I think I also have quite a controversial stance around the whole automation of hiring, because I don't even really believe in HackerRank and those type of coding tests, because I really think it depends on the type of people that you want to hire. And at least for our company, we believe really good software engineers are very problem solvers and very good communicators. And in that sense, it's very difficult to identify those skills with the existing AI tools. Maybe in the future it will, but I think, like Dries said, AI amplifies what a human reviewer might do. So if your process already has inherent bias in it, maybe everyone needs to have a master's degree. And if you don't, then you get automatically weeded out. That is a bias, but if that is part of your hiring process, then you'll just kind of eliminate people at scale who don't fit that criteria. And maybe master's degree is a okay criteria for some industries. If it becomes like gender, racial, or whatever type of specific biases, then it can become not great.
That's super interesting. It actually amplifies the biases you have. So you got to just kind of be really intentional upfront about like what you set that to be, because you add AI to it. Now it's that 10x scale. That's really interesting. And I don't know if that's too controversial to take the HackerRanks thing, by the way. Even at OfferZen, we don't use that. So with you there. Sorry, Dries.
Yeah, I think my concern there is, and it's exactly that, is the companies out there who's going to sell a tool that's a fit-all kind of tool for hiring. But I definitely agree, if it's an internal tool, it will just amplify. But what if somebody builds a tool in Australia and a South African company buys it and uses it for hiring purposes? You know what? There's a real concern there that those models won't be in tune with the reality on this side of the world. But absolutely what Meralda says. I think personally, yeah, it's hard to hire specifically at the moment, because the most valuable skills are the soft skills. It's difficult to measure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we'll continue with you, Dries, on this next one, and that's just overall in this kind of theme of aligning the AI with business goals, with context. So the question then is, how can tech leaders identify and prioritize AI opportunities that kind of align with the company's strategic goals?
Yeah, it sort of ties in with my earlier answer around your company's goals and your company's problems. And I would almost give the same answer. It's around finding, not looking for AI and looking for ways to implement AI in your business, but to rather look at what you need and see what's the AI that you can use to address that part of your business and that aligns strategically with your business. The one way we do it is still such a stupid way of doing it, but we still look at the old school SWOT analysis, and we still look at strengths and opportunities and threats and stuff, and we use that to literally write out sentences that aligns you nicely with your threats and opportunities, as an example, and where AI could fit into it. And as an example, a hypothetical example, if your business is really good with client relationships and you've got a strong knowledge element in your business, but you end up spending 80% of your time on admin, let's use AI to take the burden of admin away and give your business the opportunity to spend more time building relationships with their clients. And that sort of plays into the strengths and weaknesses of the client using a tool like a SWOT analysis.
Yeah, definitely from the business goals. And I think we have an executive AI workshop, and this is kind of how we structure it to help companies prioritize their use cases. So it's a AI strategy and ideation workshop, and the flow is we kind of figure out what their company is and do a very quick introduction discovery workshop of what they, like Teresa, what they are good at, what are they not good at, and we present a bunch of different AI use cases that are similar to their industry. That doesn't mean that they have to adopt it, but more like this is the layer of that land, and this is what are possible. And then we go into what are your top business problems, and we kind of help them identify these top business problems, write it into like the challenges mode, like what are the challenges with solving these type of problems. And then the next step is, and up until this part, we're mostly just facilitating. And then from there on, the ideation portion and prioritization portion is more where our expertise come in to help guide the conversation of, okay, these are your challenges, these are possible solutions, but why, or help them identify, are they ready for these type of solutions, and identify how long it's going to take and how much budget it's most likely going to require. Because what we've seen a lot of prioritization fail is that everyone kind of inherently knows that you have to go from the business problem, the most important business problem. But when it gets to the executive level or the leadership level, every problem that you can think of are mostly quite impactful, quite critical, and quite important. From there, then how do you break it down into what are the strategic things that you might have to build over the longer term, and what are the things that you can almost solve right now with the data and the skills and the kind of integration that you already have. So I think, I think to summarize, what I want to say is you have to identify with your business goals, but you have to bring in the technology lens of, if you ever want to implement those, this is how long it's going to take, how much it's going to take, and are you ready to kind of jump in? Otherwise, a lot of the times these initiatives kind of fizzle out, and it leaves the data scientists and software engineers who are implementing it in a very sad state of, hey, nothing got into production because we ran out of money or whatever reason.
Cool, yeah, super interesting. We are going to need to move on to the next theme soon, but I think just before we do, just to make this maybe a bit real, if either of you have any kind of examples of a company that has actually done this successfully, they have integrated AI to solve a business problem, and like what actually contributed to that success?
So I think, at least from what we see, common denominator is that they use us. It's probably because it's a biased sample, but I think at least from what we see from our clients who are implementing successfully is that they have very realistic expectations of what it is and isn't going to give them. Because of that, it comes from their understanding the problem really, really well. So they are able to break down a very big business problem into technical steps that can be solved. And then they'll also understand what is the return on investment, so that there isn't that mismatch of I spend 5 million rand, but I'm getting like 200,000 rand in return. And like, what's the purpose? And the last thing is they also have a very strong delivery or product ownership, because it's so easy to get stuck in the experimentation mode with like these data science and AI use cases. But with a strong delivery and product owner, you can almost drive out incremental features or incremental improvements instead of waiting for like a long time to see the return.
Great. Thanks, Charles. That's super helpful. Do you see anything from your side, or should we move on to our next team?
No, I think Meralda covered it beautifully. Thanks.
Yeah, solid answer. Great. Okay, so we're now just going to touch briefly on kind of building an AI-ready team. So again, for just some like data context from OfferZen side in our kind of latest skills and impact data report, 51.9% of respondents say that they have built or they've used APIs in the last 12 months. And the majority of devs say that their companies actually allow or encourage them to use AI tools to create production code. So it's quite a shift kind of in the way that we do things. So I think with that in mind, yeah, the first question would just be, what are the kind of key skills and the knowledge areas that teams would need to effectively work with AI? Yeah, whoever's up for it.
Meralda, I think, mentioned the two most important skills, and that's the around communication. Being able to communicate and to define problems really well is a skill that we're looking for. But I think what I see is actually just being interested in AI. If you're interested, you're inquisitive, and you've got an enthusiasm for new technology, you will be the first one to try out the new tools and see how it works and implement them in your workflows and see where it. And if you're still a bit stuck in the old way of doing things, and the most dangerous words in business is we've always done it this way. If you're one of those kind of people, you're gonna really battle in this world where things move fast and tools implement. But in saying it, I'll still double down on it. The old school good engineering practices still holds, and it's still important to make sure whatever you implement is done responsibly, and you keep your good engineering practices intact. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, if I can just add on, I think more on like there's two type of roles almost that move into the AI like space. One is the software engineers. I think for software engineers to become more like work in AI solutions environment, a big part is an experimental mentality, because it's so much of iterations. And from the data science side that moves into more like productionizing AI, then it's a very strong production mindset. I mean, the whole of me, there are companies built around ML ops and like machine learning operations. So I think that is at least what we feel like it's a very important skill to make sure that your AI is reliable and can be production grade.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I can say from like within my team at OfferZen, when AI came out, there was such an explosion of us just like building internal tools with it, like trying stuff. It was such an exciting time. And I think that really did serve us well further down the line when we started doing it in a more production way, because we'd kind of played around and tinkered and like got into that mindset. And I do think that's a solid way, at least from a dev perspective, to get used to it. Yeah. Cool. I think that leads nicely into the next question. And Merel, I think we'll start with you on this one. And that's just like, how can technical leaders create training programs to kind of develop AI literacy within their teams?
I think it's always very difficult to ask an existing team that is already very strapped with a long backlog to learn new technologies, to experiment outside of their like day-to-day job. So I would say for development teams, the most important thing is to create in their day-to-day job ways to integrate and experiment with new tools. Maybe like carve out some time in their day, or find some product features that they can experiment, like lower priority things to build an experiment and have fun with this technology instead of feeling like everything has to be so rigid and I can't learn because if I fail, then things will like blow up. So it's almost cultivating that mindset for the dev team to kind of experiment and play around and feel safe in failing. And a big part of technology leaders of their job is to advocate and educate their business counterparts of what are the possibilities of AI. And the truth is that most tech leaders struggle to play that role because their voice is often muffled and they also don't have the bandwidth or the personality for it. So running like third-party guided, another company guided offsite or AI workshops can be a really easy way and a faster way to kind of get the brain juices flowing for the leadership team, and they can identify things for the development teams to solve like small problems that are not that critical, but then experiment and cultivate that culture for the company.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, Jason, on our side with our clients, we actually with the workshops we run with them, we actually give them homework, and you come back in a week's time and look for opportunities, score them, use a metric that we'll provide for them, score them, look at ways to implement AI in their own companies, in their own setups, based on a sort of a framework that we teach them and supply them with. It makes it easy to evaluate and identify these. And so that's like, I agree with Meraldo, that's like a natural way to get the AI juices flowing and get the company thinking in the sort of right way about AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we need to be doing, is having this continuous learning and experimentation. I think it's like, especially like speaking from an engineering manager perspective, I think only recently is my team like at that point where we've got a good balance, but it's difficult, right? Because like Esmeralda said, there's always a backlog, there's always pressure, there's always features that go out. And a lot of the current like kind of typical agile scrum way of doing things makes this difficult. So like with that in mind, like what can you do as a company? What practices can you kind of use to foster this culture of continuous learning and experimentation?
It might sound like something. It might be so stupid, but the first thing we did was just to create a channel for AI in our team, where everybody is free to share information, share articles, share things that they've been doing. And the second thing is to, just from our side, is to try and create opportunities where we, like once a month or every couple of weeks, we try to create an afternoon or a day where we do a bit of a hackathon or a one-day sprint or build something as a team together. And so those are the two things that we've come up with.
Yeah, we actually have the same two things, and we also have lunch and learn. So because we're consultants and we work at a lot of different clients, and we all sometimes work on different like problems and use different technologies, and I always make sure the team comes back and share their learnings. And another trick that we had, our CTO Harry came up with it, is for all of our projects we have like a 30% rule where we have to do something we've never done before. That's the way to push the team to grow a little bit rather than doing the same things over and over again. It can create like stress and like deadlines, but I think that's up to the management to manage. And also just to encourage and celebrate learning and experimenting, and really don't be afraid to fail, because everybody fails with like AI projects. 80%. I mean, so if you haven't failed, then you're doing something wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm learning a lot here too, because this is super practical to my day-to-day as well. So I think I just want to unpack that a bit more. So 30%, is that saying if you work on a new project with a client, 30% of what you do there should be new tech, like things that haven't been established before in your tech practices? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, either new tech, new framework, or like new way of solving the same thing. Like there's 1,001 ways of building a chatbot these days. And instead of using the same tools to build all the time, we try and experiment using different tools and compare and see like what is better.
I love that. That's very cool. Okay. Okay, awesome. Cool. I think our last question kind of in this theme, also quite an important one, is how companies can promote sort of collaboration between your AI specialists in the team. I think that's quite a broad category, but between that group and then kind of the rest of the team members. Yeah, whoever wishes to start, maybe Meralda.
Yeah. I really think hackathon is a great way. We only started last year, but we've seen like tremendous, like good results, positive results from it, and that's and another thing is to never throw anything over the wall because we are like have such a strong MLOps culture. We recommend pair programming a lot. So if a data scientist or AI specialist developed and built this model and they need to put it into production or something, like don't do the software engineers and as specialists never do anything in isolation. They always learn about each other's worlds, and we encourage this thing called the tree-shaped person. So it's kind of like T-shaped, but you just have like lots of skills that you're good at and your speciality. But to build yourself into a tree, then you can communicate with other engineers more effectively. And to do that is actually just to keep chatting with them and learning what they do on a day-to-day business.
Nice, solid. Jeez.
Yeah, I think that's Meralda sort of touched on how we see it. It is like AI is not a function of the IT department, and AI is not a department on its own. It is pretty much something that you do across your teams, and you try to cultivate everybody to get into the AI and think about it and understand it. The teams that tend to fail are the ones that pass AI onto the IT department, and the ones where there's ownership in all the teams and all the departments for AI, not necessarily based on your technical.
Oh, did we lose Trees?
I think I've been having internet connection this whole time, so I can't really see your faces.
Oh no, sorry about that.
Flying in the dark here, so I don't know if we lost Trees.
I mean, you look super clear on my side, like it's fine. So at least like we can hear you. But yeah, Trees is currently frozen. So, okay. Well, I think we'll get back to his point just now when he comes. But that was a kind of the final part of the theme. So we have one more theme, and I think this is an important one, probably an overlooked one, and that's sort of this idea of measuring the success of AI initiatives, and something I think obviously we need to, like in my own team, do better at, because we've implemented some cool stuff, but like what's the outcome? So I'm also keen to like learn a bit more from you guys here. So I think maybe just to start off, Meraldo, what metrics and KPIs should companies use to kind of measure the success and the impact of their initiatives?
For us, we always, every project that we start, we try to figure out what is the technical success criteria and what is the business success criteria. And technical success criteria, if you have data science, it's quite easy to define, right? Like the accuracy of the model, or like, yeah, mostly accurate, or the latency of the throughput, whatever technology measures that you want to put in place. But the business metrics or success criteria is a little bit more vague. But most of the time, business leaders have a good like intuition or what they think is worth it for this project, and to marry their intuition as well as the current baseline. I can't like stress enough how many clients or customers you speak to do not know what they're measuring against. Sure, you're putting in a new AI solution, a new recommender, a new chatbot, a new like document processing, but you don't know like what is your conversion rate today, or what is like the number of hours that your team spends on solving this problem. If you don't have that measure, then of course you're not going to know how much return on investment that you are making. So before any project starts, always have to write down what is the technical and business success criteria and continuously measure against that. So we tried to put together an RI framework that links in the monitoring observability space in your AI solution to some kind of like dashboard or like report that spits out the business measures in like a monthly or quarterly or however often that needs to be measured, so that you can see that there is almost growth or degradation in your AI project. But baseline is the most important thing.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that dashboard's a super helpful idea to like make it real and make it like the thing that you can constantly kind of refer back to. Jeez, are you back? How's the internet
I'm
going?
back. Sorry about that. A little technical glitch, eh?
No stress at all. I think we've all been having some kind of internet stability issues, so no problem.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to wrap up anything on the previous point that you're making. We have moved to the next theme, but if there's anything that was burning that you wanted to share.
No, I was very close to the end of my point. But if there's anything that was unclear, yeah, please just let me know.
Okay, cool. No, thank you. The part that came out was coherent enough as a thought, so all good before you dropped.
Okay.
Okay, man. Okay, so yeah, Juice, we're just talking about measuring success of AI initiatives. And yeah, we just asked the question around what metrics and KPIs your company use to measure that success and impact. So Merelda's really spoken about that a bit, what those are, and having this idea of a dashboard that you kind of agree on in the beginning of those metrics that you can refer back to. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add kind of on that point.
Yeah, I can just amplify what Merelda said. It is super important. It's probably one of the 2 or 3 things that we'll use not to take on a project if there's not a clear metric to measure success. And there's various reasons for the one that actually stands out is, for us, it stands out is that with a bit of success, you breed more success and you create excitement around your project, and it makes it so easy, especially in larger organizations where the owner of the project can go back to the business and say, we've made a 300% in improvement on this, or we've cut costs by that much. It's easy to communicate back to the business, and it's more likely that you'll get investment in future projects and even bigger ones. And there's nothing worse to go back to a business and say, oh, we've spent all this money on AI, and you've got no way to say what how to measure it. Or what have you done, or how do you, and those are the worst kind of projects. So it's really important for us to identify a metric to measure your success. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's literally, there's always a baseline, like how long does it take a human to do something? Can AI do it shorter, or something like that? And it's often good enough, but it's important. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think for the next question, I mean, something I've noticed a lot with the stuff that we deploy is often what that kind of metric is the quality of the data that AI kind of came out with. It's like a qualitative and quantitative thing. And I think with that in mind, like what kind of feedback mechanisms can you put in place to kind of improve the AI solutions that you've already deployed? Merelda, if you want to take that one.
Again, baseline is very important. You obviously have your metrics before you go into production, and then you should continuously measure the same metrics once you're in production. And the way to do that is to adopt good MLOps practices, put monitoring and observability in place before you launch, have set up automation to keep track and check the degradation of like various components in your AI systems, and really measure the relevant metrics and be very curious about it. I think that's the trick, is to, if the development team has ownership and feel like this is something that they want to look after, then they will put these like efforts in place to kind of make sure that this baby that you sent out in the world is going to grow up like big and strong.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think, Jason, we often still have a human in the loop. We often work with AI that's never or isn't 100%, and we can't trust that it will be always 100%. So we always make sure that there's at least a validation step involved where a human can, either it's a spot check or it's we flag items where we say, listen, we're not so confident with the result we generated for you on this instance. Please have a review. Now, what is awesome about having that in place is the company or your client feels that they're more in control of the whole process, and they feel like, they're not left to the devices of an AI, but if there's something goes wrong, then they can intervene and they can make a call. But the second nice spin-off of it is that we use that again to improve the system, and we use that data to fine-tune the models and to to build a better system. So that's the one thing that we often advise clients is to at least leave some oversight from a human in the loop and not try and completely replace. There's a good saying, I think it was Arthur Goldstock who wrote the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to AI, and he used to say, replacing humans is expensive, enhancing humans is cheap, and it makes a lot of sense in most instances.
Nice. Yeah, okay, makes a lot of sense. Great. I think before we move into kind of the final question of this section, we will be doing a Q&A just now. So if you do have any kind of burning questions on what's being asked, there is already, I think, one from Nico, which we'll go back to and answer. But if there's anything else that you'd really like to kind of ask the speakers, we'll spend a few minutes just kind of covering those. But yeah, I think with that in mind, the final kind of question here is around, we've spoken a lot about the importance of metrics and all your KPIs and your dashboards and your feedback mechanisms around that. But how can companies ensure that AI strategies kind of evolve with changing business needs, like if the metrics change, as well as tech advancements, because it moves so quickly? Like, how do you kind of keep those aligned?
I think for tech advancement, it's really just continuous learning and staying informed. I think I had a conversation with one of my senior engineers a few years ago, before he was our senior engineer, and he said, like, every day I feel like I'm so behind in all of the technology. And maybe it's like his A-type personality of wanting to be ahead or on top of everything, but having that personality of wanting to keep learning and stay informed, then will make sure that you're at least in a breath aware of what is happening. And to bring that more alive then is to run little pilot projects, maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or like just a small feature within your company to try out new things. Partner and collaborate with different AI companies, bring them in just to do a small little piece of thing, ask them to like show you the ropes, get AI advisory, if you don't have a very like senior internal AI team. And I think Google also famously said that you have to re-architect every 6 months. And I think the business version of that is really just to keep reviewing your business and AI strategy. You don't have to change anything about it, but at least you're aware like this was your strategy and you can make a choice to change it or not change it, rather than being oblivious and just stick with like something that you put in place 5 years ago and it is completely irrelevant now.
Yeah, I think we should all realize that we are literally the ones piloting and writing the playbooks. They aren't a playbook how to do it. We can obviously look at the Googles and the companies who's done it successfully over the last few years. But we have to realize that we are the ones figuring it all out. So we've got to continuously review and make those small improvements. Yeah.
What an exciting time to be alive. It's very cool.
Very stressful time as well.
Yeah, for those of you working directly in AI, I can imagine it must be really intense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. So that's kind of the end of that theme of measuring success. We are going to go into Q&A, and we've got a couple kind of questions already. I think what I might do is, just because it makes it easier for people to see what we're answering, I'm going to bring them on the screen. So I'll start with a question that was in the chat from Nico. It's going to pop up, and then whoever wants to take it can take it. I actually think this first one is for Morelda, though, specifically, if I remember the context of the chat, just because it's around ML ops. So Morelda, I don't know if you see it on the screen, but it's okay, cool.
Yeah, so we kind of have a saying that you automate something the second time or the third time you do it. So don't automate anything before you even have it running end to end, because you don't actually know what that end-to-end process is going to be like, and 90% of it will be wasted. So I agree, if you are starting a new project, then you should, the first thing, actually even if it's like your 10th project, the first thing is to get it working end to end before you figure out the pieces that you can or should automate. But as you grow and build your journey, then always try and think about how some components can be reused and converge into like a standardized or reusable format. Don't write your CI/CD 3 times in different ways. Just keep expanding what you have already built. So yes, I agree not to go all out on MLOps on your first project, but also be aware of the principles and make intelligent trade-offs, because that's what you're paid to do as a software engineer, to decide what is good for your company. Yeah.
Dries, anything to add to that?
I mean, it's an old school principle is to not repeat yourself, and I guess it applies in AI, and it's I agree 100% with what Meralda said. Is just to look at ways to that could be reused. We like to just think of it as Lego blocks, and everything that you do today is a foundational block for something you can do down the road.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I see there's another question here, which I got to guess, Adrian, that this also came from ChatGPT, because it has the "you could ask the following question" line in the question, which is great. Like, cool, the AI tech, we should be doing it. Who wants to take this one?
I think you're in a better position, Meralda. We build more custom tools than leveraging of ChatGPT.
So to understand the question, sorry, it's a very long question. Can you elaborate on the key components required to build AI? Oh, I see. Okay. So I think the AI agent depends on if you need reasoning and predictability. Assuming this is more in like a chatbot workflow type of context, then there are specific architecture that pieces of architecture solve specific like type of requirements. And one requirement is like, do you need consistent and the correct answers? Then that's like, well, we know it's the big data database and the knowledge base. And the second one is, do you need reasoning of these AI agents to kind of work through multiple different steps to get to an answer? Then if you do, then it's some kind of like AI agent, like a Bedrock agent or LangChain, Llama Index, that type of tool. And do you need to fine-tune or train your own foundation, or like fine-tune your foundation model? Then that is like a separate tool. So I think, yeah, that's the biggest 3 main blocks in the workflow or AI automation.
Nice.
I hope I'm like interpreting the question correctly.
No, I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, thanks. Solid. But yeah, Adrian, if not, feel free to ask a follow-up. Cool. We've got 2 more for now. I see we've got only a couple of minutes left. So Dominic, I'm going to get to your question now. It'll pop up on the screen. How can a technical leader facilitate collaboration between AI and other departments within the organization? Cool. I think we had a similar question already, I think, in the chat. If anyone wants to summarize kind of what we said there, you're welcome to.
I think it was the point we made was mostly around pair programming. But if it's other business departments, then I think it's more around like the tech leader educating the business teams, and an effective way of doing that would be running an offsite AI workshop, or a very big brainstorm ideation, or like a really big hackathon where each business team throws out a problem and the technology team kind of try and solve it. So.
Okay, yeah. I think you also mentioned earlier, this concept of like, so I kind of lost my train of thought there, but it was getting involved quite early in the process and making sure that you start from the ground up with that like communication is quite important. Not throwing things over the wall, that was the term you used. Cool, okay. Final thing, your final comments on what one piece of advice you would give to those wanting to engage with AI. I think, Dries, let's go with yours.
Sure. Putting me on the spot, yeah. Wanting to engage with AI. Yes, I think you should just start. Buy yourself a Raspberry Pi and start playing with it and see if you can find your cat in the garden or something using AI or whatever. That's literally how I started. I started with a Raspberry Pi and I installed TensorFlow on it, and I see if I could identify the toaster and whatever from a camera. And but that's being a geek and being a nerd, how I started. But I think from a business, from a business perspective, it is start reading up, start getting interested in it. Maybe take one of the courses, educate yourself on it. There are very good courses. Where 3-4 years ago it was all highly technical, there are very good business orientated courses that's not too technical, but technically enough for business leaders to understand and get a good grasp of AI. And yeah, that's what I would say. It's just start and maybe do a course or something.
Nice. Be curious. Yeah, that's good. Solid. Like it. And yourself, Marilda, final thoughts?
I'll be a really bad entrepreneur if I don't mention that I think working with Milo is a really great way to get started. We will tell you if you're not ready, and if you are ready, we'll find the shortest path for you to get there. But jokes aside, I think it's really just to start and don't be afraid. And embrace the failure and have fun. Find a problem in your life that you think you can solve and then try and solve it.
Awesome. Solid advice. Great. Thanks, guys. Cool. I think that's the kind of end of our webinar. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and hopefully that you feel a bit more kind of enabled to engage with AI as the audience. Special thank you to both you, Marilda and Dries. You've been fantastic. I've learned a lot. And just also thank you to kind of everybody for joining us today.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.